China has reacted with a stern warning after US President Joe Biden declared he would defend Taiwan from any attack. Beijing is urging Washington to tread carefully. China says there is no room for compromise on core issues. However, Taiwan has welcomed what it calls rock-solid support from the US. Live to Shanghai and Washington in a moment. But first, the comments that sparked it all.
Can you vow to protect Taiwan?
Yes and yes.
A statement at odds with the United States' long-held policy towards Taiwan. President Joe Biden's comment during a town hall discussion appears to contradict Washington's policy of strategic ambiguity. That's where the U.S. helps build Taiwan's defenses, but does not explicitly promise to come to the island's help. Mr. Biden says the U.S. has made a sacred commitment to defend NATO allies, and it's the same with Taiwan.
I don't want a Cold War with China. I just want to make China understand that we are not going to step back. We are not going to change any of our views.
His comments come as military tensions between Taiwan and China are at their highest levels in decades, with the island warning that it fears a full-scale invasion in a matter of years. Beijing has sent waves of fighter jets into Taiwan's air defense zone as it ramps up economic and military pressure on the island. It's estimated more than 800 flights had been made in the last year, with about 170 this month alone.
First to Min Min. Min Min, China is standing firm that there is absolutely no room for compromise here.
Yes, indeed. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said today that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China and that the Taiwan issue is part of its internal affairs. It urges the U.S. to be cautious when it comes to Taiwan and to avoid sending the wrong signal in order to preserve peace and security across the Taiwan Straits. And if we read between the lines, that really hints at a possible war between China and Taiwan, the likelihood and timing of which is still up for speculation. To give you some context, China-Taiwan relations is at a 40-year low, and Taiwanese defense minister has said that China is able to mount a full-scale invasion by 2025. And it doesn't help that the U.S. continues to, in a way, provoke Beijing in a number of ways, including routinely sending warships to the Taiwan Straits about once a month. In August, they approved their first arms sales to Taiwan under the Biden administration, and more recently, they entertained Taiwan's request to change the name of its U.S. mission from Taipei Representative Office to Taiwan Representative Office. And experts are saying that China is not reading any of these as mere technicalities. They are looking for signals that the U.S. is changing its one China policy stance. Let's have a listen to what the Foreign Ministry spokesperson has to say this afternoon.
任何人不要低估中国人民捍卫国家主权和领土完整的坚强决心、坚定意志和强大能力。不要站在14亿中国人民的对立面。
Min, could Mr. Biden's remarks impact, even derail potential talks with the Chinese President Xi Jinping?
Well, a lot is at stake here, and the White House knows it. In fact, a White House spokesperson later tried to walk back the president's statement by saying that there is no change to the U.S.'s one China policy. But the Chinese are not seeing this as a mere slip of tongue or an accident. They are seeing this as a departure from decades of strategic ambiguity when it comes to Taiwan. We all know that the U.S. is required by law to come to Taiwan's defense if it's under attack. But the U.S. has so far been reluctant to be explicit as to whether they would intervene militarily. So this move to strategic clarity, experts say, is wholly unnecessary and inflammatory. It forces Beijing into a corner and provokes them to come up with a strong response here to signal that they will not back down in the face of any threat. So what's likely to happen is that China will continue its military assertion Washington. We know that Taiwan at this point is not capable of defending itself without external help, given that China outspends it militarily by about 15 times, and it's making progress in leaps and bounds in the military space. They have recently just sent a nuclear-capable hypersonic missile into space that's worrying defense analysts in the U.S. So whether there would be a war anytime soon, experts say that's still a matter of last resort, and they're not ruling out any face-saving resolution to this. And as to local political advisors are saying that China needs to intensify its negotiations with the U.S. when it comes to the Taiwan issue. And as to whether President Xi and Biden will still meet before the end of the year, they are not ruling out as of now. Ruling that out as of now, yeah.
In Shanghai, Lo Min. Let's go now to Nick Harper in Washington. Nick, the White House quick to clarify that this is not a change of policy.
Well, exactly. That's the important part. It's interesting to note how quickly and I guess how forcefully the White House came out to say there is no change in US policy. A polite way of saying the president perhaps overstepped the mark, because what he said there is effectively running counter to that long-established US foreign policy when it comes to Taiwan. Now, there is the Taiwan Relations Act, a 40-year agreement between the US and Taiwan, in which the US supplies Taiwan with military hardware and says that it will defend Taiwan if it's attacked, but it's always been a deliberately grey area, that idea of strategic ambiguity, the US not specifically saying exactly how it would help in the defence of Taiwan if Beijing were to attack. Interestingly, it's the second time that Biden has made comments along these lines. Back in August, in an interview, he said very similar comments, that the US would come to the aid of Taiwan, that it would defend Taiwan if needed. So the White House making it clear this is not a change of policy, but rather the president being perhaps more forceful in his remarks than US foreign policy allows him to be.
And what were Biden's comments when he was asked about China's growing military might?
Well, yes, again, we had these strange, seemingly contradictory remarks from the president, because he made it clear that the US is not seeking a new Cold War with China, but at the same time, he was very quick to remind China, Russia, and the rest of the world that the US is very strong when it comes to the military. He said, China, Russia, and the rest of the world knows we have the most powerful military in the history of the world. He also told the audience during that town hall that they don't have to worry about China being more powerful. He said that the US was in a dominant position, but he did warn that potentially China or Russia might make what he said was a serious mistake. There is that concern with this seemingly growing arms race between the US and China that potentially someone may make a mistake, fire a missile when they don't mean to, and that could provoke the other countries. So there are those concerns, but Joe Biden very forcefully pushing back against China, saying, look, the US is in a very strong position when it comes to the US military.
Nick Harper in Washington, thank you.